Hello, my name's Steve Jaguar.
And I'm Mike Foster.
On the show today, we're going to be having eBPF for Windows, a new newsletter that could get you up to speed in things like Go, some incredible new CVEs, Kube proxy, Wi-Fi hacks, Elon buys a dog or a Doja, and a demo of a new open source tool called Your.
Awesome. So welcome to. Hey, we had a great show today. I'm really excited, especially for the demo for Your. And if everybody watching, if you like it, follow along. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, hit the little notification bell, looking to bring alerts so you know when we're coming live. But if you don't know, we are live at this time every Friday. It's at 12 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. GMT, and 9 a.m. on the West Coast. That's all housekeeping I got for you. Yeah, tell your friends.
All right, excellent. Do we any special call outs we need to do this week that we might be forgetting about? I don't have any.
I don't have any either. I think it's kind of nice. After KubeCon, it's been a little lull. I feel like this week's been a little slow in the Kubernetes news. So it's good. A little quiet.
My call out / warning is that I can already see that I'm getting, for no good reason, Wi-Fi things. So if I turn into Pac-Man at some point, we have to deal with it. Yeah. And your call out is that your camera broke, so you're using the backup camera.
Yeah, we're gonna have to mix it up a little bit. Oh, DSO shaved. Yeah, I got rid of the beard. DSO.
Hey, I know he's like 20 years younger.
Yeah, I needed to clean up. It's getting to summertime. I can't have that weird tan line, you know.
You kind of ruined a joke I had planned later, and you'll see why.
Okay.
When we get there.
All right.
I was going to make fun of you. All right, let's kick it off. The first one I added. Where is it? Bum, bum, bum. There we go. Microsoft. This is it. eBPF. It's hot. If Microsoft's now on board, right? Mm-hmm. Embraces Linux kernel's eBPF super tool and extends it for Windows. Inspired. I like that right there. Inspired by the network packet filtering and capture software, if I can speak, eBPF. They are moving on the eBPF for Windows project to allow developers to use familiar tool chains and application programming interfaces. I think that's actually pretty cool. Mm-hmm. I don't know how it can't possibly be the same at all. It's just the idea of writing kernel code within applications for high performance monitoring. If you don't know what eBPF is, go to YouTube and watch when we had special guest Liz Rice on there, and she defines it for you. But the idea of that capability within Windows is cool.
Yeah, there's only so far only 2 hooks have been added, XDP and socket bind, so more network packets. There's not all the eBPF tracing aspects that are there when you're in the Linux. Really, it's kind of just the abstraction away from Windows kernels API, because Windows already has something similar to eBPF, but it's a little bit different because there's less definition between the user space and the kernel space, I guess, what you would call it for for Microsoft. I'm blanking on the name of it. Was it I forget what the Windows equivalent of the kernel is, but yeah, it's an interesting project. I'm kind of surprised that Windows was this quick on something like this, but they've been making a lot of changes in the last 5 years with the new CEO. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Actually, you're right. That's a good point. I think it's a step in the right direction for Windows, and it was absolutely worth a mention. So if you're stuck in I don't know how many times did you ever run into people who are in Windows that have a requirement for that kind of thing, but I think it's going to certainly be a boost, hopefully, for Windows security, perhaps. Certainly, if they're hitting networking first, that would be a lot of the biggies tend to hit Windows first. So. All right. Should we move on?
Let's do it.
Right. So I'm going to scroll past that and bring it up. This was part 1, top trends from analyzing the security posture of open source Helm charts. So this is a pile of information that was essentially acquired through scanning. Well, you can see a little bit here, Terraform registries, artifact hubs. This is, forget all this wordy stuff. Let's go. That's blah, 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 blah. There we go. Looking at these rather fine-grained diagrams to see common misconfigurations in infrastructure as code is where the value lies here, where you can see, I don't know what positives you get from this other than knowing that most people miss CPU and resource limits. It actually goes into a little bit more detail when you get down here. There's a dedicated diagram for that. There was one earlier which analyzed Terraform, which is a PDF I think you can download, but this is a 3-part article. You can go in, you can kind of confirm what you know, I guess, which is, I don't know. Yeah, it's good.
Yep. Well, I mean, most people, when they create YAMLs, it's just, hey, I need to create a deployment, it needs to have this image, and we need to mount this file in and let it run. They don't necessarily know exactly how much the workload is going to take up in terms of CPU and memory limits, so they just don't set them. Right. And especially when you get into these big organizations, why would I set limits? Because I'm not the one paying the bill at the end. And as a developer, I don't want to set my limit too low and have my pod get evicted or shut down. Right. So
that's true. There's nothing going for you to set CPU and memory limits as a developer or a designer of these files. There's nothing that benefits you.
There isn't. And one of the other issues too is if you're running somewhat of a multi-tenant cluster, you are going to have deployments that are tripping over each other in terms of resource limits and requirements, which I've run into a couple of those situations back in the consulting days where everybody had like a sharded cluster. So in development, everybody had their own cluster. And then as soon as you got to the test phase, they brought everybody's applications together onto, it was like, 6 groups brought into 2 test clusters. And then all the groups would be bickering over each other for resources, right? So it's a little friction like that pops up. I'm just not shocked to see these things. There's a bunch here. It's like, one of the crazy ones, check off policies by compliance, was containers should not run with allow privilege escalation. And if you look at that bar, I believe if you scroll down there, or maybe up, there's a whole, up, there's a whole list of them there. If you scroll up to, keep going above that.
What?
That one. Yeah. Check off policies by compliance there. Yeah. You can see the ones that got tripped fairly often. CPU limits and requests not set, memory limits, requests, and limits not set. Use read-only file system where possible. Look at how red that one is, which is crazy. That's a little insane, but different issue. It's pretty cool.
It's pretty good, and I think, let me just click through. There is, it's not there. Okay, I found this. I don't know if this is intentional or not. When I first looked at here, I clicked through one of the buttons that said source, and there was a lot of data there. And I'm like, did you intend to release all this? So, because there's no downloadable PDF, I checked just to see if you can get it all in one go. It's just the 3 articles. But I think in one of them, there's a way to click through to this epic CSV that actually it's all drawn from. It's like, it's actually all public data so you can get to if you want to try and draw further conclusions. So go take a look.
I was just scrolling down and I saw this other one, minimize the admission of containers with a net raw capability. And So there's, disallow privilege escalation, which is one. But if you allow privilege escalation and you don't drop net raw, you're basically allowing somebody to get pseudo and access your full network on your nodes. So it's like those two together. Watch out. That's in the CKS if you're looking to take it. So.
All right. A bit of a tip there.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Shall we go to the next one? Moving
on.
Swiftly along. That's weird. This is education. Some of the things that we get for the show, like this is curated content, right? That you're watching here. Michael and I have, let's just assume we've each got 25 different newsletters that hit us throughout the week, among other things like Reddit and manual searches. And Fawn, you can see fawn.dev is one of the newsletters that I watch. And I'm excited to see that they have just added GoPa, which is a better Go developer newsletter. So considering our entire ecosystem appears to be written in Go, this is interesting. Big thanks. Eamon here is the guy who, look at that, he's a rock star. He's an actual rock star. Look at that. He runs Fawn. So kudos to him and all the work he does to try and keep people informed and educated in this space. So that was a quick one. So go to fawn.dev and sign up, and you'll learn lots of things every week or so. I don't know if he's got a regular cadence or not. It seems to come out as and when. Mm-hmm. All right. Next one. This was did I add this one? This was Kuproxy's. This is almost like a special Windows episode.
It really
I didn't realize that. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of network issues on Windows.
Yeah. All right. So for load balancer type, don't create HNS policy for empty or invalid. That's the objective. Don't create a host network security policy for empty or invalid external load balancer IP. So that's the pull request here. And the idea was that, I guess, if you have an empty or invalid external load balancer IP not in Windows, the expected behavior happens, because it looks like in a Windows-based environment, Windows generates its own HNS policy for it, and that creates a security violation. It's low, though. I think it's a low priority that the CV was marked as.
Yeah, very low impact. I don't think a lot of people have this set up either. It's probably extremely rare.
It's Windows Kubernetes in production.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'd love to know the numbers or stats on that. But hey, nevertheless, it is a vulnerability that we need to know about. We can't neglect these things, even if they're Windows. The next one was you. You added this. Where's the link to that one?
Yeah.
There it is. Let's do it.
Really interesting. Every Wi-Fi device back to 1997 likely vulnerable to a frag attack. And I really think I'm just going to post this one in the chat because I think it's really worthwhile to go and read. There's already a patch out on Windows 10, so you can take it and you're probably fine. But in this article, they demonstrate exactly the flaw in the WPA 2 and 3. I was running K. So it's the last thing I wanted to see coming. Yeah, exactly.
Should we do that? That's worthwhile.
But yeah, so this frag attack is pretty interesting. The Linux fix is on its way. It actually hasn't been released yet. I just know that if you are watching, that the next upgrade you should probably get. The attack works with any Wi-Fi device and network, even ones that don't support fragmentation and aggregation. It's because those devices treat subframes as full frames and accept malicious data. It has to do with the handshake for that protocol. Pretty interesting, worthwhile checking out, and definitely follow it along, because I guarantee you might see these fixes in Windows 10, but whatever you have for your IoT device, they're probably running some very slimmed down operating system for your little IoT device. Do you think that thing's getting upgraded for another couple of years? Like, I know a lot of people that don't upgrade their IoT devices at all, right? So you buy it, you leave it, you plug it in, it does a little thing, and it's it'll sit there and probably remain vulnerable for a couple of years. So upgrade those devices with the fix when you get a chance.
Yeah, Windows, even taking over Windows 7 machine inside a secure network. So all I'm thinking now is the NHS, because the NHS, when they got slammed by WannaCry, is because they were all running XP. So I don't know who they're done. But there you go. It's awesome. I have to dig into that. All right, good.
I'd also kind of like to point out, like you think about it, Windows 10 was the first to get fixed, right? A lot of, I shouldn't say a lot of, there are a bunch of security considerations when you are relying on software and operating systems that are, let's say, older, and you're not willing to upgrade or move people because of, let's say, blowback in a company or something like that. You need support for a lot of these projects. As we get like more and more abstractions of software, they all rely on each other, right? So you have one vulnerability way down the stack, and all of a sudden your whole system is vulnerable. You kind of have to spend the money to make sure that you're keeping up with the ecosystems. It's sort of the state we're in now.
Yeah. Well, there we go. There you go. You heard it here first.
Yeah.
All right.
News,
awesome.
Big vulnerabilities.
Big vulnerabilities. All right. New section.
Yeah. Speaking of crazy stuff that's going on. The WTF section.
Right. The WTF section. Welcome one and all to this. Is this the right link? No. Is this the one you want to see? This is the pipeline hack.
Yeah, there's a couple different links, and if you're in the US, I'm sure that this has been heard about, but probably on like all the news stations. So a little bit about the Colonial Pipeline. I believe it supplies like 60 to 75% of the East Coast oil. It's a pipeline that runs from Texas all the way up, I think, into New York. And they got hit with some ransomware. Some of their devices got hit. They got encrypted. They just got paid out last night, I think, for $5 million. But if you're watching the news, you'll see a bunch of people filling up plastic bags of gasoline I think that was more of a joke, but yeah, it was interesting. They hit with ransomware, and then they released a statement. I forget what the hacking group is. They released a statement that said that we don't really try to harm people when we do these exploits. And it kind of made me think, what type of process control, like PIC control and systems, do you have in place where you can get hacked, encrypted like this, and your whole system shuts down? Because the thing is, even if you're connected to the internet and your whole process control has like some sort of external influence, you still think you would have some redundancy here and have a backup. So it's like, okay, well, here's what's running and connected, right? And we have all this system information, and it gets encrypted. Okay, well, we'll pull that server out, plug in the new one, the backup, and it should start running again. And it doesn't really matter that that's encrypted. So I'm kind of sitting here like, how is this system architected so that you don't have any redundancy like this? And it just a little, there's a lot of questions that I really want answered for this situation, but it's just the fact that you have a massive, something that controls basically the whole eastern seaboard with oil, and it's connected to a network, just scares me. But
well, so when we first talked about this yesterday and we were adding it to the show, have you found out since how the ransomware got in? Because we were just talking about, well, I was obviously saying people who work at a pipeline, they go to Pipeline Cafe next door, and with every coffee you get a free USB stick. And so boom, they're very easy to social engineer that. So maybe that's it. The idea that it's cheap Hollywood black hat movie, kid in car slapping keyboard and hacking in seems unlikely.
Mm-hmm.
Unless it's,
I mean, even if you had a bunch of computers on a private network and you had a USB, you would think that you have your network and everything syncs so that like one machine couldn't get leverage over all your other machines, right? If you had the proper control, unless basically your admin did that, which they should be fired. You can't really have an admin going into plugging in random USBs. Yeah, it's.
I think that this is.
I just interested to follow in this story. It's
maybe that's my jaded nature, is that this doesn't surprise me at all. The next thing, which was this one, they paid hackers the 5 million in crypto to get out of jail.
Bitcoin.
And I got this link from a tweet by, I can't remember who it was. It was somebody of reputable nature who said, "Oh, good, they'll just do it again. You've paid the ransom, and no lessons have been learned." But that's also arguable. Whether like you need to get going. It's oil, and what's 5 million to Colonial Pipeline?
Yeah, you're losing 5 million every hour. 5 million every hour, right?
Yeah.
It's,
Right.
It's insane.
So the lesson is hack Colonial Pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
That's the lesson to the baddies.
I actually probably guarantee this hacker group didn't want the impact of oil getting shut down, because now they have more people out for them, right? Like, because you have shut down the Eastern Seaboard, now you have the FBI and everybody coming after you. So that's why I think it's kind of funny. They released a statement saying, "Oh, we don't really want to harm the ecosystem and like people. We just go after big business and try to exploit them as a business model." This whole Robin Hood style.
They've been
thing,
right?
Watching
too much Mr. Robot.
Yeah. Yeah, going after E Corp.
Yeah, that's it. That's what they think they're doing. Good God. All right. Okay. Good one. Hit next. Elon Musk has had no shortage of attention lately for a variety of reasons, and I'm trying to connect them all together under one banner at the moment. First one, though, being Tesla and Boston Dynamics announcing a merger, which I kind of just thought, yeah, whatever, cool. Probably wouldn't have mentioned it if it weren't for this badly photoshopped image of who made this image. The car is photoshopped in front of the internet court of lies, and the dog is photoshopped onto the, I don't know, but it's bonkers. Is this real?
Mean, this probably could go in the big spender category, but I think because of that Photoshop, we left it in the WTF category, right?
It's awful. I maybe wonder if it was real or not. But the idea, it was saying in this article that it's going to be called Electronimo after the cartoon dog, and you'll be able to buy one for $10,000
with the purchase of a Tesla.
With the purpose of a Tesla. I would rather have the dog than a Tesla. If someone said, if you bought the dog for $75,000, you got a Tesla for $10,000, I would go, maybe you kind of want that dog.
But anyways,
so that's messed up.
Tesla, you just do weird things. I was going to say it's not on here, but you could also, Elon pulled out of Bitcoin, I guess, and now is having conversations with Dogecoin to make their transaction process sleeker, because he wants to keep with crypto, but he doesn't like the environmental impact. So crazy things going on. But all that.
It's messed up. Actually, what's funny, our special guest Liz Rice, her one of her tweets from yesterday evening was, if you had the power to influence a cryptocurrency, would you? And it was something along those lines. I should have put it out on the show. And it was like obviously a reaction to the fact that Elon Musk buys a bunch of crypto knowing it's going to go up simply because he said he bought it, amplifies Dogecoin or Dogcoin, and then his word makes the market fluctuate to such a degree that he can influence the crypto market to his benefit, to a massive benefit. It's crazy. Anyway, there you go.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Hey, Scorpio is joining just in time. We're going to get into like more, I guess, specific big spenders. So. Yes, love that song. It's great. This one actually is not, well, it's kind of a big spender, but it's more a big loss. Yes, so Dell, Dell has an issue with their balance sheet, and so they've offloaded VMware, and they also offloaded another company I'm blanking on. So they offloaded VMware for $6 billion, and there was another one for $6 billion, I believe. And one of the interesting things I noticed was VMware promoted their CEO, who originally I think was like the CTO/COO kind of guy. but he's a little bit of a nobody, promoted internally. And my alarm's going off that they're looking to sell. This is Dell's offloading. They promote an interim CEO who knows the company to keep sales going. And they're looking to get bought out by somebody big. That's my alarm bells going off.
Woo! That's a future big spender. Then you're kind of Nostradamusing this.
My prediction. I mean, Dell. I don't know the valuation of VMware to really make a statement on where it should be valued at. It says the way the deal works, Dell plans to offer VMware shareholders a special dividend of between 11.5 and 12 billion. Dell owns approximately 81% of those shares, so it'd work out to somewhere between 9.3 coming into Dell's coffers. By spinning off VMware, we expect to drive additional growth for Dell Technologies as well as VMware and unlock significant value for stakeholders. So they're letting VMware go. They're taking some money. They expect value for Dell. They expect value for VMware. I don't know what VMware is going to do. It seems kind of weird. Now VMware's got a ton of money for all their shareholders, and I think that they're looking to get bought up by somebody big. So what was I forget what the valuation for the Red Hat purchase by IBM is, but you might have one of the largest acquisitions in a while if VMware gets bought out.
Who would buy VMware?
Honestly, IBM.
Pushing your oh jeez, I have some new coworkers.
I'm trying to think, what's the valuation is simply too huge. I don't think IBM could do it. I don't know any other companies that would look. So Google could probably do it. VMware has Tanzu. They're trying to get to the Kubernetes market, but really a lot of top companies run virtualization on VMware. So if Google could get VMware, they could push Anthos to the moon, because you're basically saying, hey, here's your virtualization. You can sync directly up with our clouds, and the support's already there. They support, basically when Anthos came out, the number one thing they supported was VMware. They didn't really support any other hypervisors. So now they support bare metal and I believe one other. But to me, that would be the best play.
Nice.
Yeah. We'll see.
So gold star if we're talking about this on an episode in 6 months. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, if that goes through, just I need to buy some lottery tickets or something like that.
Well, you're going to get you probably start getting recruiters coming to you to work, I don't know, on stock market speculation or something. Jeez.
Yeah, that's literally all just me chucking darts. So don't take that seriously.
Awesome. All right, next one. Next one's certainly relevant in our industry. Circle CI announcing a 100 million Series F on 1.7 billion valuation along with the VAMP acquisition. VAMP, who I had not heard of. This happens a lot.
Yeah. I'm curious if Circle CI is looking to get bought out or they're just going to go public. What's the last series you can get? I always thought it was like Series E funding was last. I guess you could just go to Z. Is there a limit?
I thought F was the end of the line, but these are crazy times. Maybe it is Z now.
It says they got E. Yeah, they got E last year, it looks like. And then now they're on F, but 1.7 billion valuation. It's pretty big.
It's like a race to everybody wants to be a unit. Well, they're not necessarily. I guess that makes them a unicorn. Is that the official, if you're over $1 billion, you're a unicorn now? I don't know.
Yeah, it's $1 billion.
Let's focus on VAMP.
All right.
There's VAMP. Because I didn't know who VAMP were, and now I really like VAMP.
Mm-hmm.
Releasing with confidence. Intelligent automation, you need to release and optimize. So cost-sensitive releasing. You summarized it last time we looked at this like that. Is that because you were reading something really good, or did you just do a great job at that moment?
What, talking about VAMP?
Self-service release and cost optimization capabilities. Automates the release process, applies the safety net when releases fail, and pinpoints the precise operational capacity needed to run an individual service. That must have been what you read, because that was really good.
Yes, it's a good breakdown, and from an SRE standpoint, you can look at the release cycles that are coming out. You can look at it automatically will roll back in case of issues, and it's a cost optimizer. So I can look at who's releasing, how fast they're releasing, how many times we're rolling back, identify issues, and I can also identify increases in cost based off those. So it's pretty cool little aspect. I mean, with CI/CD and to a certain extent, it's kind of really taking off right now. You know, I think a tool like this is really useful because you have operations that's going to go in and set up all your pipelines and make sure all your checks and your security checks are all there. You also need to, especially if you're going to do anything that's continuous deployment. Like normally I've kind of seen people go to continuous deployment, realize that they have issues, and then sort of walk it back to this like hybrid. We still want a continuous deployment, but we want to be aware and sitting there watching it deploy when it deploys, just in case. So I think you're going to have a CIDC. Yeah. I think you're going to have, I think it's a good tool to add to an existing pipeline just so that you have a little bit of visibility into the release cycles and all of the ones that are going on. Because once you get to scale, it's different when you have a single team watching your own release. But once you get to scale, you need to kind of be plugged into everybody's release cycles and what they're doing. And this becomes even harder when you have microservices and containers that you could just, do 2-3 releases a day if you wanted to, right?
Yep.
Or an hour. I know Amazon does a stupid amount of releases. So
yeah, let's not hold them as the benchmark.
No, fair enough. Yeah, Scorpio made a comment. In a world of K8s and containers is the future for VMs. VMs are always going to be around.
Is there a future? I thought I was making a smart remark about coin mining by calling them cointainers. That's that in a way is intentionally clever. I don't know if that was intentional, the spelling mistake, but I like the idea.
Yeah, we might steal that. Cointainers. I like that.
Crypto mining containers are now called cointainers.
Yeah,
awesome.
All right, on to the tool time. Are you ready to check out your?
Yep.
All right.
Does everybody know what time it is?
Love it.
So this is the actually, let me do this so we can do this live. Can I can't move us while we're talking, can I?
Sure you can.
How do I move you over? Yeah. There we go. Let's do this. Let's bring these guys up. Now, when you had the beard, isn't that remarkably looking like us?
No.
What are you talking about? That is shockingly similar to if we did that pose when you had the beard. Almost identical. Well, maybe if you put on about 60 pounds.
Yeah, I was going to say, you gotta dive into the bar behind me for a little while.
I worked on my mullet, but it's close. It's close. All right. So last week we touched very lightly on your, and let me bring it back up here. So this was just released. Zing. So universal infrastructure as code tagging. What's funny about this is this is just full disclosure. My new gig is Bridge Crew. They released this pretty much exactly as I started, and it's interesting. And what's funny is reading through all the descriptions, I can tell you from the inside that we're still working on how to describe it in an effective and kind of engaging way. So for now, it's universal infrastructure as code tagging. What the idea is more like, I likened it now that I've seen it and played with it to the idea of finding lost property or tracking for a variety of reasons. So a bag goes to an airport. If you could tag the bag or tag your dog or whatever it is you want to do with something that is easily recognizable, then it can travel through all sorts of things. And with infrastructure as code, you can tag things in their definitions early before they deploy. And then they go off into the wild and they're in your AWS. And whatever happens, say where you're talking about cost issues, like, I don't know, so they can be obviously mitigated by our wonderful new VAMP.io education. Or a node goes down for a security reason, or no CPU and resource limits set for whatever reason, then you can do some work to quickly reverse engineer this. That was the intent of it. And there's a bunch of default tags that I thought were pretty smart in there. And there's a bunch of squirrely animated doohickeys here. But the way to kind of play with it from my perspective was use the obvious things. So you take, this is going to break, right? Because I logged into everything in advance, which is now an hour ago. So it's probably all timed out. I took TerraGoat, which is the Terraform badly designed thing, and you push that into here. So it's in there, and you go to your resource groups and tag it. So TerraGoat's been tagged. That's worth noting that. TerraGoat, the whole thing's been done. And the way to do that, let's see if I've still got my thing up here. The way to do it is ideally in CI/CD, but if you just did it here, you can type your. It's what's really hard is to get out of the habit of adding a U. What's that? And in talking to various people about this, the fact that it's called your and that's a word means it's thoroughly confusing. And I started calling it Spock for slang just to try and get away from the fact that it's an English word. So you just type tag, you type -d, and then you say this directory. And so if I were to do it now manually, I could do it now manually, -d. I should use the word tag -d, but it's kind of that easy. It's going to go through all the Terraform in that directory and look for things it needs to do. And now I relearned a word, I should say. You know the word idempotency? Which it's no one says it, but some people do. The idea you can perform the action multiple times and you get the same outcome. That's the intent of it. Mm-hmm. And so because this is already tagged, it's cool. I go into Terraform. I ran it earlier because I'm not out of my mind and doing everything completely ad hoc. And I added dev equals Steve G. So I added a simple tag that you can do in addition to the default tags, which are here, all the get ones that it does. If you don't say anything at all, it adds labs modified date, modified by, modifiers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and then the commit ID associated with it. If you do that in CI, then it's all there. I was also curious as to what's the point, because some of this you can do anyway. And then it was pointed out to me that if you're running Terraform and you're using a Terraform provider in AWS, it attributes it to Terraform as a person who made the change, as opposed to the person who did the commit. So this sort of gets around that as a bit of trouble. So that's what I did. And the way I added that simple tag was, I get to find the simple tag thing. There it is. I just stuck it as an environment variable run. If I change that and then ran your again, then it would apply the new tag. That's if I want to run something locally to do with my own cost center prior to it going into CI, so I can add my own tag if I wanted to do that. So that's kind of how you can add very simple things to it. Now, if I come in here and I go tag editor, am I in the right region already? I am in US East. That's good. Let's just go with modifiers, and I kind of don't care. And I search all resource types for my TerraGoat is deployed in US East 1. Then bing, I just find all the stuff, and I can hover over and I can see that, okay, here's all my tags. Now, if I had a problem with that particular EC2 or any one of the resources along those lines, this is 3 bucket, I can see the file, but I can also see the commit, and I can see the person. I could grab that, run over to my TerraGoat, and just search in this repo for that and find all the different code results. I can find the S3 bucket one I want. I can find the commit that I want. I can see the person. I can see when it was committed. I can see the guy it was done. So the speed with that's so far the idea behind it, is that I have this baked in so that the latest is always there. I was even trying to mess with it, like knowing that there's a CI process within the TerraGoat to add simple tags that looked like the other tags, or tried to override or game the existing tags. And it's obviously they tried to do that because it seems pretty resilient against somebody trying to mess with the tagging. So it seems good. I mean, that's my at a glance. And for mental stability's purposes, I actually pinged this over to Jessica Cherry, who's an SRE, and said, "What do you think? Like, is this am I out of my mind or is this actually useful? And she went, no, this is useful. Like when things break, I spend stupid amounts of time trying to figure out where, how, and who, and why, and not just achieve traceability, but attribution.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially as you get, well, I mean, when you get into the microservice world and you're not a monolith and everything's abstracted and broken, the only way you're really gonna be able to sort through all these, especially in IAC, is through tags, right? Even YAML files,
right.
Your IAC resources. Once you get into modules, people pull from modules and create all this stuff in Terraform, and you need to have some metadata injected into there so you can sort through these things. It's honestly like cleaning your room. You gotta keep this stuff clean, and developers don't necessarily care as much about tags, but SREs, if they have to come in and do clean things, it needs to be there. From an SRE standpoint, if I can inject a tag without the developer really even caring too. So like developers,
right.
Hey, developers, you don't want to clean your room, that's fine. Like I can come and inject my metadata, my labels into the resources that I want to follow in the cost center, right? And I don't need you to inject the cost center label into everything, but the resources that I want to track specifically, because I know that you didn't set any resource requests or limits on your on your resources or your modules or something like that, or maybe you're calling for a VM that's too big for what you actually need. I can follow it and make sure that these things are okay. So when you get into all your tools downstream, it's when you realize the cleanliness and the tags upstream matter so much more. And this is probably one way of getting around having to harass people on Slack to put their labels in, or GitHub.
Yeah, that's a good point. I found there was a change today where AWS announced something about doing some auto tagging in AWS, and they were going to start adding some very kind of fundamental tags on their own that were about their own tracking, which was good because they actually, in that release, they made reference back to a 2018 best practice guide around tagging for AWS resources in infrastructure as code, which was good because it went through all the different use cases in terms of security and cost and et cetera. So that was quite good. I think one of the struggles that this solves, which I like, because it's not like this is the first tool that does auto tagging. There are other ones out there, right? The fact that it has sensible defaults based on Git, like it just does the things that you would want people to do. So it's already suggesting and adhering to those kind of best practices, which was good. And it does things like skip. If you do directories, you can skip directories, even though it's recursive. So if you want to miss out on certain things you don't care about that are, I don't know, development or whatever, all the kind of things. Remind me actually when you did the Kubernetes demo, how you could do this, but not this, and this, but right. It's got that same level of thought has gone into it.
Yeah, it's a similar architecture, right? It's a CLI. Yeah. Is it Go based?
It's written in Go.
Yeah, Go mine, Go some, main Go there. The other thing too that I like about CLIs like this is they're pretty easy to build into pipelines, right? You can build this as a GitHub action. You can build this in your CI/CD pipeline. It's a low barrier for implementation, and it's really cool.
It's super easy. And then the last thing I was speculating on and I will play with eventually was that whether you can use this or you can use, well, once it gets, so it does Terraform now, but it's going to do in the roadmap YAML. So it will do auto annotation and things like that. Then it becomes a way of enriching your OPA or your Kyverno or your StackRux or whatever your policy engine is. You can start to enforce the tagging or say you didn't use yours. So you have to, you don't have Git attribution in this, that, and the other thing.
You didn't use your.
Yeah. See, it's already,
a funny sentence. Yeah.
It's already confusing. And this is part of the pain and excitement and awesomeness of Bridge Crew is that I didn't know that they were so Star Trek infused. Like I just thought, they just thought Bridge Crew's a cool name. No, trust me, they are super Star Trek infused. It's not just me. Yor is a character in Star Trek Discovery. He's like some time traveler. That's what it's named after.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Yeah, which is why Chekhov's called Chekhov.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. Jeez. That's I always laugh because like Builda and Podman, right? Like Builda was created because the guy who created it has like a Boston accent, and so it's like, It's the builder.
Builder.
Yeah, and that's why they call it
Okay.
the builder. And it's like, I don't know, some of these names are kind of funny. And then, eventually they're going to change to something a little bit more corporate sometimes. But yeah, it's kind of fun.
It's good when they don't, when they realize they call it something because some guy said it that way, and they're like, oh, it's too big to change now.
Yeah. It just sticks around forever. It's awesome. Cool.
All right.
Awesome demo.
I think that is the end of our show. I tried to keep that concise, and that is the first time I played with it a bunch today, but I think it's pretty cool. I get it now. That's the thing. I struggled to understand why I would need it, probably because I'm not an SRE. So that's probably why I needed convincing. But yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, very interesting. And we wanted to look next week. We wanted to look at Kubesploit, right? Was that the other one?
Kubesploit we were going to do this week, but as soon as we had the demo, we decided to bump it. So next week we're going to have a look at Kubesploit, which combines a bunch of sort of Kubernetes hacking type tools all into one handy area. So that'll be exciting to play with. Do you want to do that, or I do that, or should we just leave it and figure it out later?
Yeah, we'll figure it out. But you can come check us out next week. We'll take a look at Kubesploit. Would love to have the CTF fellows on from KubeCon. They were really cool. They were really cool. They did a great job. So hopefully pick their brains. I know that there's an article coming out to talk about this CTF event and all of how to get all the flags. I think that they were supposed to be a write-up. So,
well, there was
control plan. Thanks, DSO. Control plan, guys.
Control plan, guys. If you look at Rawcode's channel, Andy Martin was on it yesterday, and I thought he was going to get Andy on to fix one of his broken cluster disasters, but it was he flipped it. Andy came on and got him to go through the first 4 sections of the CTF.
Oh,
so if you want to see that all in one 1 hour chunk, go to the latest Rawcode clustered on YouTube, and you can see him, David, Rawcode trying to do them. And you'll see him where he's really good. He knows so much and he gets stuck. So he needs the hints.
Yeah, DSO. Sorry, no links in the chat. We got spammed one time, so you're cut off. Permissions gone. Is there a link? Do you have a link to that, Steve? Before we go, so we can post it down in the chat for the crew.
We're allowed to post, but they're not. Is that the idea?
Yeah, that's because people can just come into the channel and start spamming it with some. Yeah, I'm gonna not safe for work links.
I'm gonna 2 seconds. I've got it. I'm copying it, and it's gonna be in there 2 seconds. Game bong.
Awesome.
Go watch it.
Yeah, check it out. Yeah, big fan of Rawcode. So I didn't see that channel. I'm gonna go watch that now.
All right. Okay. I think that's the end of our show.
That is. It's a full wrap up. Check us out next week. Same time, same place.
My name's Steve Jaguar.
And I'm Mike Foster. Have a good weekend.